else you want to take on. We don't have any features, so it's good. Like, it's on you. It's on you. Yeah. That's exactly how it is. And I don't really mind it. It's nice. I'd rather have it like tomorrow if I was going to work, I need to do something. I'm just going to take that. Do what I need to do for you.
We were going to enter the only
Have a month
like,
clean.
just started reading.
Which is nice because it's like fun. I have nothing else that I want to do. You are fine. You're fine.
Good evening. I really don't need this, but I'm going to go ahead and use it. I'm Marie from the Chamber, Lake Eustis Area Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. Our young professionals have created this event for people to come and share ideas, and also tonight talk about a sense of community. And so at this time, I would like to introduce them and give the microphone to them, because they don't want to hear me, and I don't want to hear myself. Adriana Rivas.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Adriana Rivas. I'm the president of the Young Professionals. And next to me, I have my board, Maria, Margaret, and Monty. We put this together to really want to engage our community and bring together a place which will be growing potential and kind of have speakers and guidance, mentors, and a network of people that we could rely on. And now I'm going to pass it on to George over here.
I was going to turn the microphone up.
Yeah.
Feedback.
Owner of building, whole reason why we have a place to do this in the first place.
Welcome to this fantastic event. Whenever we can see what an old guy like me calls the youth of tomorrow rising, and we could help in any way, it's just a beautiful thing to know what our future is. So thank you to you guys for volunteering to be part of this, to lead for keeping up as well. United Southern Bank, just a great contributor to our community and everything. So this building is a hub, and it was a vision for a hub for economic development, for fostering entrepreneurship, leadership, and collaboration. That's what we're doing here today. We're lucky to have probably one of the most fantastic restaurants and their young professional to speak today, which is really a gift for us. So I won't take away from that. I wanted to introduce any elected officials we have here, and I think the only person I can see right now is our Vice Mayor of the City of Eustis, Emily Lee. And Emily Lee is running again for another term. She's been a Vice Mayor and done a great job for our community for a little over 5 years, I think. Fortunately, she's not running against me, so I love her to death. So, Marie, who started off our Chamber of Commerce president, and she is the foundation behind these guys. So thank you for being here, and never forget to give back when you can.
Our mission here is to engage and empower our young professionals. We want to create a vibrant space and a community to grow the potential, network, gain visibility, and give back to the community. And now I'm going to pass it over to Monty to introduce our speaker.
I just want to thank George again. Mega Workplace is our first trustee sponsor. So another round of applause. And we have had other sponsors, so George is still special to us. Like All American Construction, USB, and we're looking for more sponsors as a way for you to give back to the community, give back to your staff. Sponsorship includes tickets for these events, and it's a way for you to develop your entrepreneurs. So with that, I want to, this is a long bio, so 2 pages. Can I get a show of hands of who all's been to Hollerbach?
Love that place.
How long's it been there?
23 years.
Okay.
Wow.
So that's older than Margaret. Christina Hollerbach, she's dedicated to creating vibrant communities. So that means we're gonna have to dance tonight. You're gonna have to get us to dance. So she has expertise in hospitality, leadership, community development, and she's led numerous nonprofits, driving growth and innovation. She excels in marketing, event planning, and governance, and she contributes to successful projects that uplift local commerce and culture. She's passionate about fostering change. She brings energy, expertise in every endeavor, and that makes her an inspirational speaker and community advocate. She's doing this for free as well. So she's the CEO of Hollerbach, and the German restaurant, the Outfitters in Sanford and Oviedo, the Market, the Joint at West End, and Burger Box at Tuffy's. So if I have that right, that is 6 different businesses.
Everything's fine.
The list goes. She's the chair of Sanford Main Street Food and Beverage Alliance. Sounds cool.
We call it FABA. It makes it sound like more nefarious. I don't know.
It's a big word. She's other things, but notably president of the Women's Club of Sanford. She's won these awards and more probably that she didn't share. Orlando Magazine's Woman of the Year for 2023. She is. She's been in My Sanford Magazine's Lifetime. She won the Lifetime Achievement.
So I'm
for that
done.
magazine.
37 and I'm done.
Lifetime. And she was in Orlando Business Journal's 40 Under 40. That's a big deal. There's over 1 million people in this metro, so that's awesome.
Scary when you say it.
So with that, I'd like to bring up Christina Hollerbach.
So I align really well with George and Pam, and that's why I was really attracted to this community. So you do all this stuff for the work and the enjoyment of bringing things to fruition, and not necessarily for the accolades. And John Wooden, who's a really great leadership book writer, he talks about the success is a byproduct of doing the work. So it's so weird to hear those things listed, because like, yes, they happened, and yes, I'm proud of them, but like, it's the work that we did to get there that I'm more excited about. So, all right, so hi, I'm Christina Hollerbach, and I did stuff that he talked about. So I'm gonna go in a little bit today about my background and some projects that we worked on, but more importantly, how to get to that point. So I have a few questions for you guys to start out, because I want to cater this presentation to your needs. Because if I'm here and we've got this intimate setting, I want to be available to you to answer those questions or soundboard with you. So I'll go into my background and hit some of my talking points, but really I want you to be thinking about, oh man, now that I've got her here, what do I really want to ask her, or what do I want to know? So I want to ask, what stage are most of you in your entrepreneurship journey? New, starting out, already in a role? New? Okay, good. So a lot of what you guys are hoping to get out of this presentation is more, am I on the right track? How do I get my foot in the door? Who am I supposed to talk to? Is that kind of the vibe of what we're looking for today? All right. So like I said, if there's something, and even if it's like, I kind of said something as a joke, but you want me to elaborate more on that, interrupt me at any time. I am here for you guys. And also, notably, we picked the right color today, and I'm just really excited about our fuchsia color. So I don't go, oh, thank you. And is this one? Oh. Act like it, I like it. Fancy things. Oh, I don't particularly love graphs and charts, but I am going to have one graph to start this presentation, and it's a pie graph of myself. So I think one of the best ways to kind of introduce what I'm going to talk about is to describe the different parts of me. And I always make the joke that unfortunately the thing that is the most important, which is family and cats, is sometimes the least amount of time I spend in a week doing something, but it is for them. So I always put that in there. But I would say majority of my life is spent doing Hollerbach things, But because we talk about that sense of community and bringing other people with you, there's a lot more than just operating a restaurant. We needed Sanford to become a destination. I had passion for the arts, for animal advocacy. So all of those things became part of our business model. So I really broke those down also into tourism, arts and entertainment, and charity. So I'll dive into some of those. The next slide. So Hollerbach's. So we touched on it. We just celebrated on August 1st our 23rd anniversary. So the restaurant started in 2001. At the time I was 14, and my mom, who's back there, thought that she could maintain a job while my dad started the restaurant, and I think that lasted a good 3 months, Mom, maybe, before we realized, man, this is really hard, and we need all hands on deck. So when we started the restaurant, it was 6 employees, and we now have 160, so it has grown a lot in 23 years. But I love making the joke, dishwasher to CEO, it only takes 20 years, guys, you know, anyone can do it. But it is something I love about specifically the hospitality industry. If you put in the work and you're present and you ask questions and you learn things, you will go far no matter what your background is, because this is an industry that really, you sink or swim. You're gonna know, hey, do these people have my back? Am I getting through this shift together? So I really enjoy that about hospitality, because I think you have to start at the very, bottom of the totem pole, if you will, in order to manage it. You cannot manage people and situations that you don't understand. And even now in my role, I'm very careful not to become an ivory tower leader, as I call it, because I haven't been in day-to-day operations in the same capacity I used to for almost a decade. So why am I going to make policy that's not tested and getting input from my staff? So I try really hard to keep that open communication and understand that the people doing the work should lead how the work is getting done. So like I said, 2001, 60 seats and 7 employees. What a crazy time. Even some of these photos are from our first expansion, which I believe is around 2006. But Sanford, like I said, a lot of you have been to the restaurant. Do you guys remember what Sanford was like 20 years ago? We had an event called Alive After 5, and it was a street festival. And we literally named it that because we had to prove to outside of our area that we were in fact alive after 5 p.m. So Sanford has come such a long way in establishing ourselves as a destination, not just for visitors, but also for our residents to enjoy. And I did look up a fun fact too, because I put lots of stuff about my business, but not necessarily about the community. When we started the restaurant, the population in Sanford was 38,000 people, and right now in the 2020 census, it was 66,000, with 20,000 in development for apartments and homes. So Sanford has grown a lot in the time that we've been here. And that was the old logo too that my mom made. But in 2024 beyond, if we are at full capacity and every special dining room is filled, we are at 700 seats and 160 employees. So that restaurant, we ended up taking over that other place there, and that became our lodge. We have an upstairs beer garden. There's also an event space upstairs and a Knights Hall private dining area. So I think the restaurant totals over 30,000 square feet. So it's sometimes deceptive from the outside at how big that building is. But it's unbelievable to me that we have that much staff, because anybody who's working in that world, it's people management is the hardest part of the job. Getting people to understand your culture, communicating changes. So I would say the amount of employees we have is probably our strongest asset, but also one of the most challenging parts of the job. So Hollerbach's German Market, which is right next door to the restaurant in our Magnolia Square, we started in 2008, and we have a lot of products in there. So we carry our sausages, our cheeses, and things that we make in-house, as well as over 10,000 other imported products, especially around Christmas time. But a really great way to kind of balance, a full dining experience, but if that's not something you're into, that you can get this kind of quicker lunch and, pastries and things like that. But really proud of that space, and we have a German manager there that's really fun and interesting, that lends to a lot of authenticity, but it's a really nice event. And then Outfitters. So we started that in 2014. Originally, Mom was originally in Hollerbach's Art House, and we were selling art and had a gallery, and we were teaching beading classes. But at the same time, I was also managing the uniforms for our staff. And then, like, if we had like little one-offs here and there, we had like a little German corner, and we would sell some German clothes, and they would sell out immediately. And then we're like, man, they just want the German stuff. So I guess that's what we're gonna do. So it got rebranded as Hollerbach's Outfitters, and has moved closer to the restaurant and the deli. But then also last year we opened in the Oviedo Mall as well. So we have 2 locations for this, and it's expanded significantly with not just the German Trockten, which is the word they use for like folk clothes, but also, you know, Christmas items and German pyramids and all sorts of fun things. So really proud of that too. And even though it kind of got away from us, and my mom and I still would just like to make jewelry classes, sometimes you have to go where the people want you to go. And then the joint at West End was 2023. So we opened that inside West End. West End is a bar down the street from the restaurant. And it was one of those things like, you know, we have that many employees, we roll up when we go out after work. So when we go to West End, they lost who was managing their kitchen post-COVID, and we're like, hey, we can fix this. We want a place that we want to eat. And the vibe there, it just really fit with the theme for the joint. So lots of double entendres and fun stuff, but we try and just do bar food right. It's been an interesting adventure for us as well, because hospitality industry is changing. And this is all QSR, no front of house staff. You know, you order at the kiosk or order on your phone, which is something we tried a little bit in the restaurant and people absolutely hated because we understand different clienteles, different needs, different experiences. But it gives us a chance to hone and practice the QSR, quick service restaurant skills, so that we can, you know, get with the times and not feel, have a little bit of experience if those shifts change. But I'm proud of the joint, and they're really cool. Burger Box is actually coming this Saturday. So another similar situation, Tuffy's is down the street. They also have a secret tiki bar called Suffering Bastard. So we'll be serving the food for both the secret tiki bar and for the main restaurant. They have the main bar. And they also have a music box that seats close to 400 people. So we're stress testing our first day open on a sold out show this Saturday. The equipment's not even in. My partner's going to be installing the POS system tomorrow. But I'm excited. I love my team because, like, we don't look at this and go, oh God, I can't believe we're doing this. We look at it like, man, I'm so excited about this challenge. So again, that culture and making people feel enthusiastic about doing hard work is the thing I'm most proud of, because that is so hard to do, but it's my absolute favorite. So, okay, so that's all the Hollerbach stuff. We did it. Any questions about Hollerbach's background before I get into the next part of my pie chart? Feeling good? All right. So tourism is a huge part of what we do, and next thing. I have just kind of a plethora of images. Like I said, Sanford was a different place 20 years ago. And we had to prove to people that you were safe to come downtown, that there was something that they could do and engage with. So we've been a part, and I've launched events for Sanford Main Street, like our Shop Small events, the Wing Mural Project, the Christmas in July events, food trucks. This one is from Sofa and Suds. And we've been winners almost every year. We go for crowd favorite and not an actual race, because we're not good at pushing the couch, but we're really good at getting people drunk and having a good time. So, and that's actually coming up here in November. But all of these things are just unique and weird and fun. That, again, the community. It brought us together to do something unique, to share this crazy experience together. And it shows, because that's, these things have been going on for 15, 20 years. And those connections you make with people pushing a couch down the street, those connections you make with people for like Pints and Paws. We just raised $128,000 off of a one-day event in March, and we're able to open grant programs to help all the animal shelters that we have in Central Florida. So these events are not just, hey, they're doing great for our business owners that are sponsors. It's not just doing great for the businesses that day because people are in there for sales, but there's these residual benefits that brought people together, that made them feel safe, that made them feel welcome, that go back into the community. Such a huge part of what we do. And then I put this because the background of what you guys see as guests, right? You see, oh man, this is a cool event. They required me to sit in a room with a bunch of people for hours all year long, planning and scheming. But also things like with our Main Street program, it gets sponsored by our county, it gets sponsored by state funding, so you have to lobby for those things. You have to go down to or go up to Tallahassee. We work a lot with the Central Florida Tourism, with the Food and Beverage, or what is it, Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association, the Florida Main Street programs, Historic Trust, our airport. So it's not just, hey, I run this business. Unless you're in front of these people, telling them about your story, doing what I'm doing right now, making advocates about your business and what you want in the world, people won't know. So any opportunity we can to tell people what we want to do, to tell them what's important. Most constituents, they feel like sometimes their politicians are unattainable or unapproachable, or they don't care about you. It has never been farther from the truth. I don't care what side they're on. Every politician I've met honestly is there because they want to hear what you have to say. And if we don't tell them, they're not going to know what's important to them, and they're not going to be able to figure out how to get policy that supports what their constituents need. The question, Mom?
Did you tell them you went all the way to Washington?
Oh, I did. See, it's weird. But I did. I went to speak to the Small Business Administration, and one of the things that made me mad about it, there's 23 people that the people in the SBA at the time invited constituents to come and speak to the administration. And there was 2 people, myself included, that represented hospitality. Everyone else was some kind of government contract, right? But then I'm thinking about, in the small business world, what percentages of small businesses are hospitality or services? And it's over 50%. So in this room of people that have the money and time and capability to be heard and show up to advocate are not necessarily the actual representation of what's happening in the real world, because it's difficult to take the time and money to go and say your spiel. And it's cool to go out there, and I got a fun folder, but I had 5 minutes. So what do you do in 5 minutes? And I asked everyone in the SBA to say, if you were going to open a business in wherever your district is, how hard is it? What is the first interaction you have with government? And how do they know about all these amazing programs? Because when I got this folder about all this cool stuff SBA did, I never heard of any of it. And I've been in that world. I've been doing that kind of stuff. Had no idea these programs exist. And for me, it's like the private sector is always faster than the public sector. It just is what it is. And so they are faster at getting to you and getting you to sign a bad agreement before the government goes, oh, no, this could have been free. But once you sign and get this bad loan, now you're not eligible. So it's like trying to be faster than the private sector when it comes to getting them aid and telling them what's available. And to me, you're only as strong as that first person. And I always joke about it, especially in Sanford. The first person most commercial businesses talk to is the utilities worker, the office lady, who's opened up that commercial utilities account. And it's usually not a great experience. And so I always said, that's where it should start. If I got a packet the day that I signed that lease and went on to turn my water, where I went, oh, I didn't know I could have a pre-con meeting. I didn't know I could talk to this person. And yet that sounds so simple and executable, right? I've been bugging my city to do that for a good 10 years, and it's still not done yet. So there's things that we think are common sense or that should be easy to execute, and they're not always that way. But you have to keep fighting for it, and you have to keep making people think about what it's like and to be that person in that situation. Fun tangent, Mom, thank you. But anyway, like I said, tourism, it's so much more than that. You have to work with these partners and have a presence. Arts and entertainment is definitely a passion for me. But I will say, how many people work in the arts community? It's so hard. Getting funding for the arts. We know how difficult it is to do development in general, especially for nonprofits. Arts are so difficult, but I think they're so important. We were having a conversation earlier where a lot of the soft skills that I really value, I learned from theater. I didn't learn that in college. I didn't learn that in high school. I learned it because I did a production of Annie as a high schooler with a live dog. You learn how to use cue sheets and Excel and tools for stagecraft, how to communicate with a group of people to go towards a common goal. There's so many soft skills I learned in the arts, so I have a huge passion for making that available to people, but working in arts organizations is so hard. So I was president of the Ritz Theater, of the Wayne Performing Arts Center, for 4 years, but my term ended, so I'm still involved on the marketing committee, but no longer president. But like I talked earlier about, we wanted to have an art gallery. So now in the restaurant, in the upstairs area, we turned what was a fire-coated hallway into something more productive, which is a nice art gallery. So we do workshops and art events. My mom is an amazing artist, so even though we don't have jewelry classes anymore, she's taught acrylic pour classes and has some of her artwork on display. Then actually this Friday is our summer rewind for Love Your Shorts that screens at the Wayne Dutch Performing Arts Center. And I've been on that board for almost 10 years as well. Really passionate about film and also what film can do for tourism. Like if a movie takes off, man, people go visit New Zealand and make entire trips to go to someplace they may have never been to because that's where they filmed their favorite movie. So I think the potential for tourism is great, and unfortunately Florida does not really support that with incentive programs as much as places like Georgia. So it is a competitive market to be in. So anytime you are talking to politicians, let them know how important the film industry can be for an area. And especially for Central Florida, where we have, the Ringling Brothers Animation School and Full Sail. We have this amazing pool of talent, but then as soon as they get that education, they have to go somewhere else because they're not getting supported here. So any chance you can to be a place for film, I always encourage it. And we have our category in the film festival specifically called Florida Flavor, and I love it because we have so many directors that come out and do these Q&As and inspire people to become filmmakers, and it's one of my absolute favorite events. So we have just a little rewind recap this Friday, but our festival's always in February, close to Valentine's Day because you love your shorts. But again, all of those things, I tell people, I know sometimes on a piece of paper, oh, I'm a super volunteer and I'm so altruistic. But honestly, a lot of it is motivated by helping my business. I'm not going to deny that. Of course, there are things that I am sincerely passionate about that I want to bring up with me, but I also like to focus on them because if I get sold out shows at the theater behind my business, where are they going to go eat? Do I make them come eat at my restaurant? Of course not. Do I encourage it? I sure do. So it has to, I think, come from a place of sincerity, because if you are, partnering with an organization that you don't align with, it becomes very obvious. So find things that you really enjoy to take up with you, because there's so much synergy in that Venn diagram where there's got to be things that we both align with that we can help each other with. Community and charity. One more. So we do a lot at Hollerbach's itself. We have our own foundation called Hollerbach's Has Heart. And anybody who has a business currently, we get solicited a lot every day for money, and I feel for them because in some cases I have been that solicitor asking for things for organizations I've been on, but it's a lot. So I can't help everybody. It's just not possible. So we love doing things like the Meet Bingo, and like I talked about earlier with that Venn diagram, I can't help everyone, but how can I find a way to be accessible that aligns with both things that we want? And Meet Bingo was that answer. So every Tuesday, and we're sold out for 6-8 months in advance, we have a different charity that comes. So for them, a really built-in, easy experience. They don't have any money up front. They market. They have people show up. The bingo cards, sales go directly to that charity, and then we hopefully make money on food and drink, and they have a great time. So it's one of my favorite events. It's actually happening right now because it's Tuesday. And actually, I put the June list of bingo recipients because I wanted to note that one of them was the Lake Mary Little League team that just won World Champions. So, and I'm not a big sports person, and I don't, particularly love baseball, but I was watching some of the clips from that game, and it looked like a good game. They had some cool plays, so I'm so proud of them. It's just a really cool achievement. But again, that's one of those things, I can't give money to everybody. We're like, hey, did you sign up for a Meet Bingo? I can at least, give awareness to your organization. They usually make $600, $800 a night, for not having any money up front and just getting people to show up and have a good time. Anyone who's run an event or a fundraiser, they know how difficult it is. So we try and make that easy and fun. And like you said, I'm also president of the Women's Club. We were founded in 1913. So we've been around a long time, and the youngest president in our 100-year plus history, which is pretty fun. Getting them to trust a different generation and let them in was probably a 10-year strategy, and it took a lot of work, and it still does. And I'm so thankful that I did it because it helps me understand people in a whole different way. I am so appreciative of institutional knowledge that a lot of these women carry with them, but I have to find that balance of how do I honor our history and our past and that information, but translate it in a way that won't, kill the organization, that will allow us to survive and continue. Because the goals, especially of women in their household, has changed significantly. I was talking just the other day, with my grandmother, didn't have her own checkbook, couldn't open her own business until 1988 or something like that, that women could make their own business. And we forget that was in our lifetime. So I try to be patient and understanding of the triggers and the background of a lot of these women and navigate what it means to have a women's club now in 2024. So it's been a challenge, but I absolutely love it, and we do a lot of amazing things. My mom was chair of the education committee. We got to give out scholarships last year, but we also maintain a beautiful historic building in downtown Sanford, which, as George knows, maintaining buildings, especially historic ones, is always so fun. It's so fun. And then I'm also Rotarian. How many people know what the Rotary is? Okay, good. I thought Rotary was just for old white guys. I'm going to say it. And I'm right in some regards. Sometimes you go to one and that's all you got, and other times you don't. Actually, our district governor is in the, you guys call it the Golden Triangle Rotary, because they have Umatilla-Tavares and you guys all in one. She's from your area. She's fantastic. She's actually come into my club in a couple weeks. But I love Rotarians because although it is an international organization and they have funding and things that happen on these huge levels, it's also a focus on local. And I have this kind of rule of thumb when it comes to charities: if you can afford a commercial, you don't need my money. So Rotary is probably the one exception, because they say, hey, we would hope that you guys contribute towards these international campaigns, but they're not required, but we give you resources and guidance to be a difference in your community. And our Rotary, they may be simple things, but a public little library, the butterfly garden at the park. But these small things make such a difference in how people connect with the area and having a sense of purpose. So I love our Rotary, and we do a lot of work together. I just became secretary because, like he mentioned in my bio, I love governance. I really do. How many people know Robert's Rules of Order really well? This is good. I like it. I joke about, especially with the women's club, when I first joined, they were in the process of renovation, and I saw Robert's Rules really live out to a lot of degrees, because they were arguing over what fabric the curtains in the women's club should be. And they had to enact multiple levels of Robert's Rules of Order in order to resolve this argument. And I was so impressed. I really was. And I contribute a lot of the 100-year success of some of these organizations because of that governance. You can have all the best intentions in the world, but if you don't have good governance and policy that dictates how you act and how you make decisions, or especially in volunteer work, what someone's expected role is or their job description, it's going to fall apart. And I hound on governance all the time. And even as new secretary, we want to bring up membership, and I was like, we got to get our house in order first. I'm not bringing somebody in unless they know what they're getting into. And until we have a confident orientation that's accurate, then we shouldn't be soliciting new members. And everybody wants to solve the end problem first before they get to that first one. The governance is real important to me. And actually, that's our current county manager in Seminole County, Darren Gray. He came from Claremont, but also did some work in Eustis too, and he loves this area. Very jealous that I've been spending a lot of time out here, but very supportive as well. And then Leadership Seminole is fantastic. You guys have a county leadership organization here as well. I forget the name of it.
Leadership Lake.
Makes sense. But really proud of those two. And I've talked about this a lot with my mom. I think her biggest regret is not making me finish going to college when I was still 16, because I did not graduate from college. And when I went to this leadership organization, I was feeling like major imposter syndrome. Everybody's orientation day, there's 50 people per class, and they're all like, go Gators, go Knights, and I'm just like, oh crap. I don't have that thing to say. But when I went up there and I just started talking about Hollerbach, everybody's like, oh yeah, the place where the boot and the schnitzel comes from. I'm like, all right, great, schnitzel's more cool than college. But it did really help me learn, one, more about my area, and also I thought I knew everything about Seminole County, and I was so wrong. And I take that mental note all the time, that you don't know what you don't know, and there's always an opportunity to learn. But also with Leadership Seminole, meeting people outside of my industry. was so important to me. Because I grew up in hospitality and the arts, which honestly very similar kinds of people. And it was really nice to see how different people in different industries approach the same problem and how we solved it. And I was class of 27, which is like, what, 7 years ago. 7 years ago. And I am now on the Executive Alumni Council, and we have a lot of major events. We just did coffee and conversations this morning with our new undersheriff. So it's just great to know that you have this Rolodex of people that because you've had this common experience of doing a charitable organization, because we have legacy projects, it's a different sense of camaraderie than just we went to a thing together. When you build something with somebody, it resonates so much more. So I value what this organization does and many leadership organizations, because it really does help people develop in real time. Because we can talk about it all you want until you have that experience, until you fail, until you make a mistake or have an argument with somebody about something stupid. You're not going to learn. So it gives you that opportunity to fail and learn in a safe place. All right, next one. Cats and fam. This one's easy. So in the back too, I have Jason and Catania, and my mom Linda, and I have 4 cats. And that's kind of the whole focus. And I talk a lot, I'll mention, I hate when people say work-life balance. I know it's been a very popular phrase. I've been trying my darndest to stop saying balance and say integration. I feel like balance implies perfection. I'm trying to get it perfect and make it do this thing. To me, integration implies ongoing work because it's never perfect and it looks different every week. Like this week, it's been a real rough week. My first event started at 6 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it's Tuesday. Okay. But you know, it's like some weeks like that. But then 2 weeks ago, I had plenty of free time and I was playing video games and hanging out with my cats and doing fun stuff. So it ebbs and flows. It looks different every week and it looks different for every person. Don't be comparative. Find out what works for you and trust your instincts for yourself, because everybody's at different levels, and even the way you see me right now may not be how I'm going to be in a week from now. So take that time to be compassionate towards yourself. But yay. All right, so now I'm getting into my takeaways, I think. So I say, how do you do it? The dreaded question, because I get asked often, well, how do you do it? And I literally wrote a blog at ChristinaHollerbach.com/how do you do it to send people that for that answer. And every time I say it, people think I'm joking, and then I'm like, no, seriously, you can go to ChristinaHollerbach.com/how do you do it, and it will explain it. Because it makes me feel like an alien. Like as soon as well, I don't know how you do it. It almost feels kind of like insulting, like, well, you know, quit showing off. It's like how I feel about it. So I've always like kind of dreaded that question. But I try to quantify it as best I can in a way that's productive. And I think debriefing myself often, asking the why question, you know, more than 3 times, helps me really get down and drill down to the core of why I can do something. And I debrief every day, like, oh man, this day was great. Why? Why did that work? What happened? Did I sleep better? Did I eat better? Did I meditate? What was the reason today was a success? Another day is, man, this day sucked. Why? What could I have done to make it better? So it's not this dwelling or obsession with shoulda, coulda, woulda. It's not worrying about what happened. It's just analyzing the factors that created that experience and how I can make it better for next time. So I know you'll be mad when you see 3 steps, and it only takes 3 steps. But as much as, like I said, I like drilling down and figuring out the why of things, I've found that it usually comes down to these 3 things. Be ready, show up, and follow through. And I know it's like, oh, it can't be that easy. But it is, and I'll tell you why. So when I talk about be ready, and actually we had this conversation earlier because I sent her my press kit Google Drive, and I was giving her a compliment about how much I liked getting the graphics back and how connected all the platforms were to each other and how easy it was to share on social. And a lot of people take that stuff for granted. It takes time. You know, even if you set yourself up for success so that it makes it easier in the future, still having the wherewithal to do that and create those systems is challenging. So I always say be ready and think bigger than you are. So, you know, I'm not a public speaker as a profession yet, but I would have goals. But, you know, if I don't present myself in such a way to do that, I would have never had these opportunities. I just did it kind of for fun for some of my Rotaries or my women's club, and then I found I really enjoyed it, and then I was like, hey, let me put myself out there a little bit more. And then every time I did a speaking engagement, I learned what people want from when I come there. What were they expecting? What information do they need before I arrive? So every time I did one, I was like, well, let me just prepare all those things for them for the next time. So every time I had this interaction, I want to be ready to make sure that the person I'm about to engage with can figure out what they need from me very quickly. Laws of attraction is a huge one, and my mom and I talk about all the time. The name of our company, the actual LLC, is String Theory Creations, because we love string theory and the laws of attraction. And I believe that it's true. And I like to say it too, just like waving my freak flag, right? The more I tell you about what I'm looking for and what I want to do and all the things I want to accomplish, I'm going to attract people that align with that mission. Because they either went, oh, that sounds awful, I want nothing to do with that crazy lady, or they hear me and go, oh, well, how do you do more? So if I don't put that out there for them to see, how are they going to know how to find me? How are they going to be attracted to my cause or my mission? Because I didn't put it out there. So that law of attraction is on you first to tell people what it is that you want them to be attracted to. I talked about this a little bit with Leadership Symbol, but drop your ego. You know, like I feel because of that imposter syndrome, sometimes I would put on a little front and come out, you know, like I know everything because I'm the youngest person in the room or the only girl in the room, but I had to drop that ego. I had to come in to everything like I'm going to learn something new today, I'm going to meet somebody I've never met before, I'm going to have a new experience. And if you go in to anything with this kind of idea of curiosity and leaving that ego behind, it's amazing what you can get accomplished and how you'll end up connecting with people. And the tough one too is self-discipline, and I struggle with it every day. But it is such an important part about leadership and entrepreneurship, because if you are going to go into that world, the only person that can hold you accountable is you. You can have encouragement, you can have pressures from other things, you can have promises you made to somebody, but at the bottom of the day, my dad says colloquialism's wrong because he was, born and raised in Germany, so now I see it wrong all the time. But at the end of the day, it's only you that can hold yourself accountable, and only you know where those lines are and where those standards. So I, even on my own personal to-do list that I don't share with anybody, I'll put deadlines on it. Sometimes I make them, sometimes I don't. But if I don't have that barometer of where I think I should be, I'll get lost. And I also joke about, I'm incredibly productive because I'm a procrastinator, and I build that into my lifestyle. So if I'm busy, I know this is the only time I have to do this thing, so guess what? That's when that's going to get done. And so instead of feeling shame about it or feeling like I'm waiting down the last minute, I just know that about myself, embrace it, and work it into my schedule to suit my needs. And again, not being comparative. I know other people who would have prepped for this presentation for 2 weeks and practiced in front of a mirror, and if that works for them and they give a great presentation, then do that. I touched up this presentation 3 hours before I got here to make sure everything was good, practiced a little bit in the car ride over here, and now I'm here. So everything is different for everyone, and you have to figure out, I call it life hacking yourself, right? You gotta figure out how that's gonna work for me. And self-branding is so essential too, and I hate it. I hate hearing stuff about myself. I hate reading that list of things because it's just so weird, but you still have to put it out there. And I did run for office in Sanford, and that was one of my biggest struggles. I hated doing photo op. I hated going, look what I did for Pints and Paws, and I know that I did the work, and I know it's going for good things. I don't like it. And I don't know why that is, but it is. But that self-branding part, putting yourself out there, talking yourself up, it's really difficult. It's one of the things I love AI for, because writing about myself in third person is agonizing, and then I'm like, yo, AI, tell me how great I am. And it just makes it way less awkward. You can still edit it and tone it down to fit yourself, but it does kind of help me get out of that moment for a second. But you have to be able to do that in order to promote yourself, because people are attracted also to confidence. And if you come in like, oh man, I guess, here's this thing, and even if the work's great, I'm gonna feel that energy from you and go, I don't know, they don't look ready. They don't look like they're proud of what they've done. So fake it till you make it if you have to. But that branding and that the way you present yourself and connect with somebody, they can feel that. So it's super essential. And Atomic Habits, I mean, people have read the book. Ooh, everybody should get Atomic Habits. I love all books. Everyone should read books all the time, or listen to books, or do a TikTok, do a TED Talk. Whatever way you like to engage with information, never stop learning. Go out there and find something that inspires you. Atomic Habits is actually a book that I read a long time ago, but then someone gave it to me as a gift, and I just like, oh, I'll just reread it. And I got something completely different out of it my second read than I did the first time. And also, even just today, verbal indigestion. You know, you guys are going to hear me talk for this long, but you know, what you take away from today is going to be very different from what you take away, and that's fine. So unless you kind of retouch those things and read those books, you're never going to know what you're missing out on or what point you want to take home with you. And one of my favorite things from the book that hit me harder the second time was habit stacking, right? So like, I wanted to stop wearing as much makeup and get a face routine, right? And I tried, like, oh, I'm gonna get all the soaps, and I'm gonna do it before I get in the shower, and I kept failing. I kept failing every single week on this new routine I tried to build for myself. And then when I read the book, I was like, habit stacking makes so much sense. So instead of a whole new routine, which is really hard for humans to create new habits, I'm gonna stack it in between two things I do all the time. If I know I always brush my teeth and then brush my hair, why don't I put the face cream on in between the two things? My success rate went from 10% to 90%. So it's like, it seems so stupid, but that one little nugget of information completely changed how I interacted with this one thing. So I think about those little things all the time. What can I do to make this more successful? And then again, that debrief. You know, being honest with myself when I fail and not getting mad about myself, but finding a way to make it better. And the show up. So this one's hard. And I talk about, imposter syndrome. Showing up is half the battle. Because sometimes you feel like you don't belong somewhere, or you're not ready to be here yet, or all those reasons why you choose not to interact with something. But really, it's showing up that makes a difference. I don't care what someone's background is, financially, color, whatever. If you show up, people are going to see you, and they're going to want to interact with you. And my favorite thing about it is ask questions and be present. Because when I go to new events and I meet people, I may have talked in front of 80 people, but I'm going to remember the one that asked me a question. And then depending on what they ask me, I'm going to be like, oh, actually I was at this other event and I met this lady because she asked this, So unless you're engaging with people, being present, offering help, when there's a new board position available or whatever, they know far in advance who they're going to pick for that position, because it's probably somebody who showed up to the meetings, who came to the meetings and asked questions, who volunteered to be on this committee. So when those positions in leadership become available, they already have you in mind because you did a law of attraction, that you told people what you wanted to do, you expressed interest, and you already proved that you showed up. So even if you don't get exactly what you want right away, or you're not sure if this is the right fit for you, you're not going to know unless you show up. So congratulations to all of you for showing up here today. It's already step one. And also, people do business with people they know, right? If you think about, the power, Angie's List was so popular because it was social proof. It was, I know that someone's on here because someone I trust also thinks they should be on here. When I'm in a room, or I'm looking for a new vendor, I'm going to go to my chamber. I'm going to go to my Leadership Seminole alumni list before I just search on the internet. Because there's that added pressure as well that, oh man, if I screw up Christina's account, everyone's going to know about it. So use that. Don't be afraid to use those connections and power, because people want to do that too. We're getting, somebody's painting our burger box tomorrow. He's like, oh, I'll get you a good deal because I want you to put a post about me. Sure, no problem. I would love to. Because not only does that mean that, we're helping him out, it means he's going to be proud of his work. If he wants us to share that he was the one who did it, it's going to look good. So I like that kind of social pressure that we put on ourselves by making connections. And sit at that table. I struggle with this one, even being president of the Women's Club. I don't like separating things that much by gender or nationality, and I realize why we do that, and people need different needs, so I'm not saying don't do them, but sit at all the tables. Learn from different people, different organizations, different places. If you want to be there, then you belong there, and you have to tell yourself that. There's so many times, as a young person, as a woman, I'm like, man, I don't know if I should be here. I don't know if I'm going to be well received. I had to leave that at the door and just own it and come in there. How can I help? What can I do for you? I would love to learn from you more. Those are my favorite things to say, because if someone doesn't respond well to those questions, it's not an organization I want to be a part of. And don't press an organization to try and get an answer you want. Find another table that meets your values, right? And that goes to professional boundaries. Like I said, if they don't want you here, you've made your effort, let's find a place that aligns with you. And follow through. So we did all the work, we branded ourselves, we made ourselves ready, we're reading books, we're finding mentors, we're looking at organizations and people that we want to align with. We showed up, we volunteered, we're on a committee. Now what? Right? If you got through all those steps, if you don't follow through with what you promised when you got there, it's dead. That relationship's over. Your word is everything. So when you make a commitment to somebody, make that commitment, honor that commitment. Even like right now, with Main Street, I was really struggling towards the end, but I agreed to be here for that turn. I'm going to be there for that turn. I'm going to make sure I leave them in a better place than when I left it, even if it's a struggle. So that commitment and follow through is so important. A lot of this stuff is on my How You Do It thing, but I love to-do lists, and I'm a very digital person. I have remarkable tablets and Google Drives, but there is something very tactile about a physical to-do list. And I know it's a hack, and I know I'm tricking myself, but it still works. My favorite hack is, if I'm really not feeling the day, I will make a to-do list at the top of my to-do list, and then make it, and then when I check that first thing off, I'm like, girl, you already got this. So I know I'm tricking myself, and it still works. And it's just like, if you're cleaning your house and you know what you have to do and you're not feeling it, once you get that first set of laundry in the washer, or you do those dishes, all right, I'm already doing it. It's getting that first dish done. So it's the same way. If I get that first thing on my list, I'm already like, all right, I'm halfway there. I can push through it, right? Calendars are your friend. I remember distinctly getting binders and planners as a kid in school, the ones that you like to run your nails over because they make that funny noise. And I didn't want to use it. And every teacher, every parent, everybody's like, this is, planners are life, and you got to get organized. And you're like, man, 16, screw you. And I had information that I had listened to earlier. And I treat, but I'm not as extreme with it now, but when I first really started integrating a calendar into my personal life and not just for work, I treated my time as a budget. If I think I'm worth X amount of dollars per hour, let me look at where I'm spending those dollars. And if I found I really wanted to do Shipt, right? Shipt costs $99 a year. Groceries come to my house. I'm not driving to the store. I'm not buying things that I don't want to buy. And usually I can clean the house or do a task in the time it takes for those groceries to arrive. And instead of the one day off I had this week spent out running errands and doing stuff, I got what I needed. I have a housekeeper. I talk about it often because I didn't think that was for me. I didn't think that I was allowed to have one of those. That's only for certain people. And then when I looked at the cost of what that actually would be compared to what I wanted to spend my time doing on my day off, it was a no-brainer. I could sacrifice other things to do that, but if I want that time off to be spent with family, with cats, then I needed to find ways within my week to allow myself to do that. Look at yourself like a budget, find out what your priority is, and stick with that. Because until you analyze and debrief how you're spending your time, then it goes away. And it's amazing how much time things take in your head compared to how much time it takes in real life, especially for someone with ADHD. So it's something you should really look at for yourself too, to find out what you want to do. And I joke about it, but even I wanted to write more blogs until I put in my calendar once a month, hey, these 3 hours on Thursday, you're going to write a blog. It didn't get done. So I used to be like, all right, this is cat and puzzle time. This is leave me alone. I don't want to talk to, we call it my puddle form when I don't want to be a person. So I block those things in because you need that. You need those recharges. And until you see how your week affects you and what you need, you don't know. So debrief yourself. Think of yourself as a budget of time and build the life in your calendar that you want. Mentors give you energy. And I don't care if it's someone you know, or an imaginary person, or Superman, whoever that mentor is to you, use it. When you're having a rough day, reach out to that person, watch a video, read their book, re-engage with that content that inspired you, because mentors are so important. Like I said, if you have that ego and you think that, oh, I've learned it, I've already done that, you're wrong. Even if it's something you've already read, engage with that content, find people that inspire you, surround yourself with people that bring you up and ask questions. And then compassion and balance. So I talked about it's hard to hold yourself accountable, but you can't get mad at yourself. that self-compassion is the most important part, and it's so hard to do. And I struggle often, but there's, actually, Mom,
Yeah.
can I put you on the spot to do a self-compassion exercise? The one where they have to close their eyes?
Do what?
You taught it to me in our mindfulness study class with Delaney Dean.
Which one?
Self-compassion, about a friend that comes to you in need.
No.
Well, I'll do a brief one. Basically, you close your eyes and you imagine that you have a friend, someone that you trust that comes to you. What does their face look like? They're ashamed, they're angry, they're upset, they really screwed up, they've done something awful. What is your response to that person? What are you going to say to them? How are you going to make them feel? And if you imagine that face and then take a pause and go, what if that person was me? What if I was in that same situation? How do I treat them? How do I treat them? What would I do? And it's so funny because when it's someone we love, we're like, oh my God, we would forgive them. We would take care of them. We would tell them everything's okay. But when it's something you screwed up, you look at yourself in the mirror and go, why'd you do that? What's wrong with you? So I try and take that visualization to heart when I screw up, because it's inevitable that I'm going to screw up. I'm not going to be perfect. So how can I take that moment to go, man, I would have forgiven somebody else for the same thing. I have to forgive myself, and I have to find a way to move forward. So compassion towards others, but also compassion towards yourself. I think that might be close. Yay! So now we're open for questions. It's also my couple talking about follow through and being ready. I have physical business cards, but I also love Popple because I don't always have cards with me. So it's a great way to engage and connect with other people, to find out more things about them. I do a lot of speaking engagements, and you'd be surprised how the small percentage of people who do a follow-up after a speaking engagement. Don't be afraid to reach out. If someone's willing to give their time here, that means they're people that like to give their time. So if you have questions and you want to talk, or you just want to connect on LinkedIn or share a business proposal with me, I honestly want to see it and I want to hear from you. So don't be afraid to reach out. So at the beginning, I said keep some questions in mind. So I'll open the floor, and I would love to hear struggles that you guys have, something you'd like me to elaborate on, anything you guys want to talk about.
Enjoyed your time with us. Thank you so much. You're very inspiring. Could you share with us a couple, obviously you understand culture from how you're developing your companies. Could you share with us a couple, if there's 100 things you have to build into the culture, 100 cultural aspects, could you share a couple things that you tried to build in that were like, oh my gosh, I just really thought that would work, but it's not even close? And a couple ideas you tried that were, I had no idea this could work, we got to keep doing this.
Sure. And we were actually talking about it earlier about, we offer a lot of assistance programs, like the employer assistance programs and the 401ks, and I can't get people to sign up for it. So there's some things too that I think are a great benefit, and I just can't get them excited about. But I would say one thing that I wanted to do that I haven't quite executed that is kind of hit or miss is, I know it's almost building a union, but I kind of wanted it to be more like a student council, where they self-nominated people from each department to represent a board that maybe met quarterly or ad hoc when we wanted to run by something new. And I was really excited about that. But then the more I talked to myself, they're like, no, that's why we do this and you do that. So it was a reminder that things that might be exciting to me or inspire me are not necessarily something everyone wants to do. But by asking the staff, there were a few people that, oh man, I'd be really into that. Out of 160 people, there was 3. So, I just know that those are the people that I'm like, okay, well, when I have a new project, can I come soundboard from you? So I still found a way to kind of utilize the people that were interested, but I definitely thought there would be more people that would be excited about contributing to policy and ideas, and they weren't. And then we kind of translated what I wanted to do with the council into employee clubs, which we just launched this August 1st. So I made it kind of like a high school, where it's like you have to go online to the Google form. What do you want to do? Where do you want to meet? Which manager is your sponsor? And we'll decide whether or not we have money in our foundation to fund that activity. So whether they have an adventure club that wants to go kayaking, or the D&D club that wants to use the Knights Hall to host a game, or the book club, or the garden club. So I really wanted it to still be employee driven, because if you're a corporation, you go, we're all family and look what we did. It's not as I already need to get it's not real if it's not coming from them. And also, as a manager, it gives me a chance to see who can step up to the plate. So it may be a server that never had aspirations of being in management, but she's so enjoying running this program and getting people together and doing stuff like those, just like theater, those are real soft skills that I get to see played out in real time that are a benefit to the restaurant, a benefit to the other employees, but allows them to showcase leadership potential. So, there's ways to translate, and I think the key is meeting people where they're at. In my industry specifically, I have ages 16 to 70. So I cover a lot of different generations. And especially banking and finance, you generally kind of see the same sort of person. But in hospitality, I have such a plethora of people, and I have to figure out how to be the manager in the environment that's just appealing to the 70-year-old as the 16-year-old. So I think meeting with people one-on-one, asking them what they want out of something makes all the difference. In our retreat we just had on August 1st, we did a huge company-wide announcement, took a lunch break, we actually sent all the kids to a day of theater so they could have a theater experience. Did department meetings, but then we had electives. And we asked the staff, what do you guys want to learn? And we ended up having a banker come out and teach you a little bit about finance. My mom did a meditation class. Jason built Hollerbachs and Halo and had a video game session with people. So no matter what they were into or engaged with, they found something that connects them. And one of my biggest goals from that kind of experience was what happened over the next few weeks after that retreat is, when you have 160 people, you're open 7 days a week, and in some cases almost 24 hours, you don't see everybody, or I don't know what they like, I don't know what to talk to them about. But after that event, now everybody knows he likes Halo and Superman, so hey, bro, you see that in the movie? And it allowed them to connect and find a way to meet each other as people, especially in an industry that's so guest-focused. If they're not happy, everyone knows it. So trying to make sure that they feel connected to each other and to the brand is really essential. Oh. I read your mind?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi there. Thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge. As a small business owner in downtown Tavares, I am really trying hard to connect the community of small business owners. I know you're so involved in Sanford. What do you do, or what do you recommend I do to connect all of us to work together to make even the Golden Triangle, because we all share customers. They're not just coming to downtown Tavares or Mount Dora, they're going to Eustis and Leesburg. So how do we bring the group together to better Lake County?
I'll tell you the answer about how we started ours isn't fun, but you could probably still use it. So we touched briefly on FAVA, our Food and Beverage Alliance that I run through the Sanford Main Street program. Like I said, I'm not president anymore. I'm just the chair of that group because it comes with extreme effort. So when we restarted our Main Street program, they had done it in 92, and it went defunct in 2020, and then it went defunct in 2000, and then I brought it back in 2019. And I say that because everyone either had a bad taste about Main Street from the before times, they didn't even know what it was, or they had created their own fiefdom to combat this issue. So getting everybody to play nice in the sandbox again was like a 1.5 year long effort. And it took going, beating down doors, meeting people face to face, solving squabbles between 50-year-old dudes that were mad at each other about something they couldn't remember from 10 years ago. I mean, it wasn't pretty. And it was eye-opening to me about how people hold grudges and why they made certain decisions. And I tell this joke all the time, but there's a story about a woman in pot roast and how she cuts the ends off. Has anybody ever heard this story? So basically, hey, the woman's teaching her daughter how to cook, and she cuts the ends off, and then the kid goes why do you do that? And she goes, I don't know, let me ask Grandma. And then Grandma calls, and really it's because their old oven was too small and the roast didn't fit in the oven. But you're passing down the way you do something for so long, you forget why that you've done it. And that's what I was facing all the time, trying to unite these groups together. It's just why do you do that? Well, I don't know, so-and-so was mad at me 10 years ago. I'm like, no, come on, let's find some common ground. So it was difficult to restart the Main Street program, but it became very apparent very quickly that, food and beverage needs in the Mercantile Association for like retailers and services, they're all at the base, entrepreneurs and small businesses, but we have very different concerns and initiatives. So we separated those groups because, if this isn't for me and this is just for the bars and I don't want to listen to it. And so we were alienating too many people because they just weren't feeling connected to the content. So step one was separating the kinds of businesses, so we would only meet all together once a year, but those committee chairs would report back each month to the board. And then with the food and beverage specifically, it was a common enemy that united us, right? So I was already hosting meetings. We had a good system, and out of the 30 business owners that we had contacted, like 4 would show up. And some of them, it was really honest, or owner-operators, getting away from your business is difficult. There was no way to find a date and time that worked for everybody. So I just tried to be as transparent as possible. With Facebook group, the Facebook message, the calendar invite, the email follow-up, no matter how someone liked to receive that information, we tried to make it available to them, because in some cases it was they honestly couldn't get away. In other cases, they didn't want to be there because so-and-so was there or whatever. And it wasn't until a former mayor tried to change our noise ordinance to prevent activity past 10 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. And she was, calling violations, cops were coming, and it was a mess. But because for the first time we all had the same enemy or the same goal, then all of a sudden the meetings that I used to have 4 people show up had 24 people show up at them. Now the mayor wanted to come because, you guys are meeting without me and I want to know what you guys are saying. So years later from that bad incident, now I purposely have city staff come and talk to us. A special event coordinator comes, the code enforcement guy comes to bridge that communication gap. So unfortunately, we became united because of an incident, but I tried really hard to keep that enthusiasm there and give them resources that they want. But even we have FAVA tomorrow, and we're changing the format a little bit by request. But I said, hey, what kind of speakers do you guys want? Like I said earlier, I want to meet them where they're at. What are their needs? What do they want to know? And out of the 46 people in the face group, 2 people responded to the survey. I'll probably get maybe 15 people tomorrow. So I can't give you magical answers because you can't make people want to come. But my thing has always been, you're always invited. I don't care who's there, what past history I have with them. I will keep them on that email list. I will give them the same information I give to everybody else, and their point is just as valid even if it doesn't align with mine. So mine has always just been about transparency and accessibility, because if they do try and start crap or get this shut down because they feel like nope, look at all this evidence that I have, that I've given them the same opportunity to be present as everybody else.
You talked a little bit about balance. I think one of the things I see is that everybody wants to be successful, especially with my kids, who I consider them young professionals, but they don't understand the struggle. So here you are, I'm not going to say how old you are, but in your 30s, and part of, I guess, Dad's succession plan and your own successes. Talk about the struggles. You touched a little about how much time you work. We have a poster downstairs that's my favorite, and it says, to be the 1%, you got to outwork the 99. And I think you're a perfect example of the 99. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but talk a little bit about your struggles to balance that, having a young girl as well and a relationship.
Yeah, that's a new one for me as well. So Katanya is my stepkid, sort of. So we just started living together 2.5 years now. And so I went, single lady life, 1 bathroom, to having 3 of us in the house together with 4 cats. So it's been fun. But it, to me, is a lot about boundaries, right? So, and the nice thing too with Jason is we also work together, which I know some people find terrifying, but it's all I've ever known. So I really like it because we don't have so much uploading and downloading about our day because we were both there. So when we are home, I don't need to be like, oh my God, I had the worst day. Like, he knows. He knows. So that part of it really helps. But I think it's about communication. So even this has not been a good couple of days. They knew this is what's happening. So if I'm not my normal bubbly self, or I'm not very engaging or excited about whatever's happening, it's because I'm struggling. So I think it's all about communication. Like I joked earlier about my puddle form. Like, you know, some days, like you just had a field trip, you know, we're like, what do you feel like when you get home? Do you want to have a dance party or you chill? You know, so it's about asking people what they're at, what their expectations are for the day, and being compassionate. You know, we're not all going to be performing at 100% all the time. You just have to find ways to communicate in a healthy way to establish those boundaries. And although it's like my first, you know, foray into having a kid in my life, I joke about like I have 160 kids. You know what I'm saying? And like I don't know if it's all people in the world, but definitely hospitality industry. We've got some people with struggles, you know, and had not had great childhoods, and everybody comes with some baggage. So navigating that as a manager and employer has definitely kind of prepared me for what we're facing at home and challenges in communication. But balance is a struggle, and I think it's bringing people with you too. And you know, this idea of corporate world and personal life being separate, why? You know, like why can't the work that inspires me as an individual seep into my life at work? Why do I have to, you know, not take my work home with me? Why not? If I'm proud about something, I should be just as valid talking about it as home when something bad happens. So I think trying to separate them is where we kind of fail, because it's impossible, especially if you're an entrepreneur and your name is your business. How do you separate that? And when people ask me how many hours a week do you work, I'm like, always, all the time. It's just like, and even like if I, they call me like hospitality cyborg, you know, because like, when I go to theme parks, when I go to restaurants, I'm present, I'm engaged with my friends, but I'm also like, all right, the tourist to resident ratio is probably 60 to 40. You know, sandals over there means he's probably from Germany. I should go ask him if he's been to the restaurant. You know, I can't not do that. They'll like joke about not seating me next to the kitchen or a service area because I will get distracted. I want to hear the tea. I want to know what that line cook did. You know what I'm saying? So I do purposely maybe place myself in rooms in a way that I will not get distracted. But I can't. I like doing it. It's something that is exciting to me. So I try not to separate them, but just know when it's appropriate. You know when the audience wants to hear my observations and when they don't. You know, and even like some of my girlfriends will go out and they know that I don't like something, and they're like, Christina, how are you feeling about that silverware? I have a thing about cheap silverware when it's like really like unweighted. I don't know why it makes me so mad. Probably Theo. But so I won't say anything. But my one friend's like, I know you hate this fork, and I'm like, I sure do. I sure do. So making a joke about yourself, being honest about how you're feeling, those things make a huge difference in trying to find that balance. But I think separating them is not necessarily the best way to think about it.
Hi, thank you for. Thank you for being here with us tonight. It's always great to hear from a leader and their journey and be able to extract things to add value to our journey, which I certainly feel that I have tonight, so thank you. Two leadership questions pertaining to you and your organization, and then one to some of the civic groups that you're involved with. Civic groups seem to have their own culture. Sometimes they have long histories of culture or patterns or habits of doing things.
Especially chambers.
Okay, so as a leader, how do you filter for yourself where you want to spend that time, invest that influence you developed as a leader within certain civic groups so that your influence has a return back on that organization as well as yourself? So I'm kind of interested in, we've talked about balance, and I want to follow up with that in a second, but how you filter that process for you as an individual, because all of this information is fantastic. So I'm thinking, how many more things can she do? And how do you filter that, saying, this is where I need to place my influence to affect change? Sometimes you get into that journey and find out, I gotta pivot. Okay, so that's the question. Within your business organization, how do you identify and grow future leaders for long term within that organization? Out of 160 people, I'm sure you would know better than me. Some are there for part-time jobs, temporary. It's their first job because mom made them get out of the house. But when you started out saying from 14 years of dishwasher to executive, it only took 20 years. what are you doing with your internal team to develop growth within certain people that you identify to bring them into leadership roles?
All right.
The thing I'm so proud of her about.
It's true. All right, so first part was how do I prioritize my time with civic duties outside of my business? And like I said, sometimes I prioritize ones that benefit the business most. When I know that Main Street helps our business community and creates events that draw attention, that one's going to have a higher priority than going to put books in the library, but I'll make sure that that's still covered. So, it's just, that's why I talk so big about governance. Because for a volunteer to give their time is to me like everything, because they don't have to do it, right? So even if someone's a job, it's a struggle to get them to do it when you're paying them, let alone when they're a volunteer. So I go back to what is the job description. Specifically, I'll talk about like Rotary. So it's a smaller membership. I was in Lake Mary Rotary, which is one of the biggest in our district, to come into Sanford because I wanted to bring what I learned from Lake Mary to this organization that was, more in tune with what I was doing downtown. And they had no membership coordinator, and they hadn't reviewed their bylaws in a good 12 years, and they didn't have a speaker coordinator. And to me, the speaker coordinator is a very important job, because if you're having weekly meetings and you're coordinating with county managers and city managers and other professionals, you need to treat them with respect, because they're giving their time to come talk to you. You need to be there for them. And so it's one of those things where we've tried and no one ever wants to do it, and I don't want to do it, and so we just haven't, we've all just been kind of dealing with it. And that was we have to fix that right away. And so it's if I was this volunteer, what would I need to accomplish this goal? So we wrote a template for how to contact and talk to a speaker. What do they need for them? We got thank you gifts to make sure that they're in the shed, so that they're the thing, so that we would be able to honor them. We gave suggested people that we've used in the past with their contact list. We gave her a checklist of what she needs to do before and after a meeting, how to communicate, built a calendar. So that way when someone comes in and I'm like, hey, we would really love you to do this. I don't know, it sucks, can you fix it? You're gonna get a completely different response than, hey, we selected you because of your skill set, because I think you're gonna be great at this position I created, and here's all the things you need to do the job. What a difference that person's gonna have with that experience. So when you talk about prioritizing my time, that's what I do. So it's hey, I know that this end goal is important to me. I know what time I'm willing to give. So instead of being that chair and taking on this project that I know I can do, that I would honestly like, I'm instead going to build them a template to let somebody else delegate and take that control and be their support person. So even if it's something I know I don't have time for, I want to honor that person's time, and I even put in that job description, hey, I think this is going to take 20 hours a month, and here's why, so that when they're getting into something, they know what to expect as well. So they can prioritize their time just as much as me. So for me, it's a lot about delegating, letting go, but also setting people up for success. And I usually prioritize it on family needs first, then Hollerbach needs, and then commitments I've made to people, more so than what's the new project I want to take on. So that was the first one, unless you have follow-up.
Go ahead.
And then the second one was the internal leadership programs for employees. So, I mean, a lot of that has to do with my mom too. She's a Rollins College MBA alumni, and she went through the MBA program when I was in middle school. So I graduated 8th grade the same year she graduated MBA. So I laughed because I was doing MBA college level homework with my mom, and it kind of ruined me from wanting to go to college. I did that already. But I bring that up because a lot of my, I would say, leadership style and the way I want to teach and communicate with people came from her. Oh, I can't look at her because she's going to start crying.
She wrote a syllabus. She wrote a curriculum. She picked a book. She teaches leadership class.
Leaders are teachers.
And Rollins College doesn't invite me to come back and talk to them. They invite her.
So Rollins
But I'm very proud of that.
Rollins added an elective to their MBA program about how to work with family, because they realize not everybody gets straight out of college and goes to international business place, so they're trying to make the programming a little bit more relatable, because when you learn these skills, you usually go into business with people your family members, your friends, and it's hard to navigate those relationships. So if anybody knows how difficult it is to work with family, but also how rewarding it is, it was me. So I've been doing a guest speaker at their elective class on how to work with family, specifically about the succession plan that we have still ongoing with Theo and Des. But that leadership course, John Wooden on leadership that I mentioned earlier about a success as a byproduct, that was one of my dad's favorite books. And again, like I didn't think I would resonate with it. I was like, I don't like sports, and this guy is, I think he wrote it in the 50s or 60s, I don't know. And so I'm like, what is this going to be to me? But I'm like, if it's important to my dad, then, he's admittedly not a great communicator. So if I can learn about his mindset and his thinking through this book, I want to do it. So I read the book, and it made so much sense. I'm like, that's why Dad does that, or that's why. And one of them specifically is about Coach Wooden being very particular about how his athletes wore socks. And like the athletes are like, why? Who cares? This is stupid. And it's similar to Theo, where it's like we would be having a great shift and everything was fine, but he would come in and be like, oh, there's trash on the floor. And it was devastating, right? I'm just like, I did all this other good stuff, and that's the only thing you saw. But I read the book, it made me go, one, if that's the only thing you can find, take it as a compliment. But two, if we don't pay attention to those details and we stop thinking those details are important, it has so many more residual effects. So when I realized how important understanding this book was for understanding Theo's philosophy, which in turn is most of my executive team, because we all grew up together with them as our parents, right? So that's the book that we use to teach this class. And so if you think, it's very rare that we hire outside for management, but it has happened. So if I have a new manager to the team, they're required to take the class. I have other supervisors that go, hey, who do you think is next in line to take this leadership class? I want you to invite him to the class. So there's some cases where people took the class and realized, man, I don't like this. I love being a server. I'm glad I had this experience, but I'm not emotionally ready for whatever that is. And then we've had other people who didn't make it through the first two classes because they were so uncomfortable and this was so off-putting to them that they ended up not working here anymore. And there are other people that completely thrived and brag about it and wanted to start a book club afterwards. So it's that experience and that opportunity that you create these things. And like I was saying earlier with the employee clubs, giving people an opportunity to showcase their skills about what they're passionate about teaches me so much about them. How to motivate them, what triggers them, what their mindset's like, and also like little things about, oh man, they don't understand the bigger picture, and this kind of goes back to what George was saying too. For instance, we have our host stand location, right? And on our executive level, we've seen that host stand in hundreds of different iterations over the course of our 20 years. And I had that institutional knowledge. But I would get so frustrated as a young person where I would go to an organization with this enthusiasm and these great ideas, and there's an old person, we already did that. Well, that's not how we do it. And that, like, you hear it and it triggers you, right? Because I'm just like, ah. And I've heard that so much on so many different organizations. I vowed to never do that to somebody else. But now that I am almost 40 and I'm in this management role, I catch myself. So like the kid, the host stand, he's so enthusiastic, and he's like, he has this grandiose idea, and I can already tell that it needs some tweaking, but it's not a bad idea. So I had to catch myself going, well, we already tried that once, and I put it right back in my mouth and said, hey, I am so excited that you're into this. I would love to see a proposal from you, and I want you to lead a committee with these other managers to brainstorm your idea further to see if we can implement it. And I said, there are some institutional things I know about why it may or may not work, but you won't know until you try, and I want to give you that opportunity. Because I wish somebody said that to me when I brought up new ideas. But to George's point too, you have to let people fail sometimes. And it's so hard as a manager to know this is probably not going to work. But I also know that circumstances are different, parameters are different, and unless I give that person to understand in real time why this didn't work or why it did, they're never going to take that opportunity again. They're not going to learn. So giving people that gut to screw up.
What I really appreciate about what you just shared, truly appreciate that everything you just shared, was you're not just giving people the tools and equipping them to be successful at the task that you have a vacancy to fill or something for them to do. You're empowering them, you're building their content of character, you're putting things in front of them that will grow them as individuals wherever their journey takes them, within the restaurant, out in the community, when they get married, move away, and all of that. A lot of businesses miss that. That's really commendable. And then
You used
lastly,
my
I'll
favorite
just-
word too, empower, which I don't think I've said this whole time, but empowering people to make decisions, it makes all the difference in the world.
Sure, and I'll just finish with this about balance, because it's a great word. I'm working with a coach right now who's having me look at that word and start to implement it with harmony instead of balance. So if I'm engaging in a process, is it bringing harmony to where I want to go? Instead of trying to look at a timesheet and say, I got to balance my time here and here, I'm looking at it as, does this move me to where I need to be? And just an interesting topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'll bring up one of my mom's favorite phrases that she tells all our staff is, make your actions meet your intentions. And when we talk about debrief, that's the question I ask myself at the end of the day. Because everyone, I have this aspiration to get this done today, but at the end of the day, do I go, all right, well, I set out the day to be inspiring, to make people feel good. Did I do that? Did I not? My aspiration today was not to talk to anybody and stay in the damn house all day and hang out with my cats. Did I do that? So whatever that aspiration is, it's not right or wrong, but did your actions meet that intention? And that is such an important phrase. That I think Mom wrote it as a weird cryptic codes and leaves them in creepy Post-it notes around, and then the kitchen guys are like, what the hell is that? But it's effective because now they've discovered something weird. They're asking questions. I also think too with leadership, be weird, be yourself. People, and especially on TikTok, they're making fun of corporate speak like crazy. How did we get into that culture where we're not honest about our feelings or telling people what's really happening anymore? Be real with people. It goes such a long way to be honest and transparent. Good?
Any other questions?
I do. I have one last question, and then we can wrap it up after that. To finish it off, I would like to know how important it is for a city to have an identity. So what was Sanford's identity before you kind of got involved? And I feel like this might be a good one then. And how that has changed over time, and if you see it changing in the future.
So we're streaming live on Facebook, so I'm going to be careful.
Yeah.
But I had this conversation a little bit earlier. The theme of this of the topic was how to build vibrant communities. I have a separate slideshow for that, and I honestly couldn't bring myself to present it today. Because I was looking at that slide deck, and I got so angry. Talking about being honest. Angry and frustrated, because right now I am struggling a lot with my city's leadership about the direction of our community and their support of the business community. So with our FABA group, we've been having to show up at work sessions. We're having trouble with basic services, water, infrastructure, communication, how the communications department works. It's been awful, for lack of a better word. So it's a huge struggle because it is so important. We talked about all these things for you as an individual with brand identity and all these other things. A city should also be doing that. And I think Eustis does a good job. They're communicating, they're talking to people. What do you guys want to see? How can we meet you where you're at? The same thing I was saying, if you want to know how to be better with your employees, ask them. So the same thing goes with the city. And when those two things aren't aligned, it's painful. Because again, it's not right or wrong or bad and good, it's just different. And it's so hard to find that balance. And like I said, government moves so slow, even with the best intentions, to be honest, to be transparent, to write good policy, to not get sued. I get all the reasons why this has to happen this way, but there still is that human component that we need to take care of and prioritize the people in our community, and sometimes that gets a little lost. So the original question is this Sanford branding and image. I think when we first started 20 years ago, we were welcomed and pushed to create special events and to do fun things and to make our city attractive. And the feedback I'm getting now from my city is, thank you, you've done what you were supposed to, you can stop now. And I got a big problem with that. And I tried to make a joke of it in the sense that I feel like we sold people a lemon. Hey, look at this fancy new car, look how awesome it is. But of course, after you sign the deal and you bought a house here and you're committed to Sanford, just kidding, we're not gonna do any of that cool stuff that you heard about. Because I've canceled Oktoberfest, our Jingle Jam celebration from Main Street program. There's a big issue yesterday at our commission meeting with the way they honored our Pints and Paws grant announcement. So it's not malicious, it's not on purpose, but it's not good. And trying to find that image, and also funding. Like, marketers aren't cheap, and getting a brand and getting your message out there and doing it in a timely, relevant manner, and the way social media works is extremely difficult for anyone, even more difficult for government. So again, even with the best intentions, you know, we've got 65,000 plus people, 300 employees at the city. They have one communications director, no graphics designer, nothing. So even with the best intentions, trying to get timely information that looks all pretty and professional, that's hitting the right points, that's hitting the right target market, government's not built for that. So I think, you know, understanding that that's a problem and figuring out how to address it or outsource it or find a partner is really essential, but it also takes a lot of work and effort.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can we give a round of applause for this?
It's really exciting to be here. I love talking to people that I don't know really well, and hopefully at the end of the day, now we feel like we know each other better. And I'll say it again, please hit me up. You can go right to my calendar and book a virtual with me, or the world will explode. I don't know. But please do that. I'd love to hear more about you.
Wow, that was a good one. You held out on speaking at SBA. I feel like that should have been in the Bible.
It was so long ago now.
All right, this might be our biggest attendance yet, but let's make it bigger next time. I want to thank everybody for coming out. And since we are part of the chamber, I want to give a plug for some things that we're doing upcoming. September 15th, we plan to partner with Lake Eustis Area Chamber of Commerce and City of Eustis to host a fundraiser charity event with Lake County Sheriff's Office. It'll be a karaoke competition. I know, right? I'm not going to sing. Yeah. So yeah, register online, look for that. Also, there's some flyers for our next September event. It'll be similar to this. We'll have a keynote speaker. Hint, hint, he's actually in the room. And it'll be Jason Neverett with the Better Life Endeavor. So Jason is a combat veteran and entrepreneur. And Jason, do you want to share a little bit about what you're going to speak into next week?
Sure, but she just raised the bar significantly. So cut me a little slack next month when we get together. I'm sitting here thinking of at least 2 to 5 couples that live locally that I should have invited to be in the room tonight. All have businesses. I've invited them in the past. The response was kind of this, but let's think about who needs to be in the room. That was phenomenal. And if we were paying a ticket to go to a seminar here, there's tremendous value there. So next month, when we get together, we're going to take a look at what creates our belief box, how we think into that, and then the competing interests from systems, I call them systems of a system, that compete for our thinking and take us out of that creative thinking space where we just end up actioning how we're told to think. So we'll take a look at that next month.
Be good. Other things that meet in this same building, thanks to Mega Workplace, this is the entrepreneurial hub of Lake County. So 1 Million Cups meets here, which is a free resource for anything entrepreneurship. I invite you to come and connect every Wednesday, 8:30 to 10. There is light breakfast fare and foxtail coffee. Also, B&I meets here. The president, Todd Headley, is right over here. Another plug is Pete, a TEDx curator and an officer for our local Toastmasters that is burgeoning in the Golden Triangle. So we meet at Lake Eustis Area Chamber of Commerce building right on the lake. It's a nice view. Sunset, leaving every meeting Monday, 5:30 to 6:30. So we've got flyers in the back. Don't forget to follow us on the socials. This will be available on Facebook and YouTube. And feel free to connect a little bit longer, but we might start cleaning up, and I might find some more of those cupcakes over there. All right, thank you all.